Okay. Uh, just like method, I'm going to say that class is also nothing new to you. You have been creating classes for every problem that you are trying to solve, assuming that you have solved some of the problems. Class is a basic entity that has to be there in every Java program if it has to be successfully compiled. So if you don't have a class, you cannot write any code at all unless you have a class. There is nothing to get executed also, even it cannot call that also. And I also told that you can write uh, methods other than main method, right? So you can also write some classes where you omit the main method altogether. um, so those are classes, those are some things that we call as library classes. They are not executable classes. But so let me explain what a class is. Class is like a blueprint. It's like a design on of a car. So you cannot really ride, you go from one place to another place using the design of a car, right? You actually have to produce a car based on that design. Then you can actually use that to go from one place to another place. So class is also like that. It's just a template. It indicates what are all the behaviors that a particular class exhibits, that like objects of that class exhibits, and also tells you what are the different properties it can have. So what are the coming to the car analogy? What are the different properties that a car can have? So car can have weight, it can have height, color, it can have horsepower, it can have mileage, it can have the capacity of the engine. So we have a lot of lot of things, a lot of data elements that a specific user can have when it comes to specific data items that a specific user can have. When it comes to behaviors, like say for example, accelerate. When we call accelerate, some operation gets done, right? And say when we turn on the key, start engine key, another kind of action gets done. In the same way, every class or every object in the world has a set of properties and has a set of behaviors. So the methods, whatever that I have shown you earlier in the previous session, they are actually the behaviors. So when you call a specific method, some operation will be done. That operation can be, say for example, accelerating the car or decelerating the car, applying the brake. Some app operation happens. Whereas there are other properties, like say for example, color of the car will not have any influence on mileage, but it still has some important behavior as to like whether the people will buy it or not. So it will influence other things like some external factors and also some internal factors. And so assume that the weight of the car is one property. That weight of the car will influence how much brakes, how much force with which we have to apply the brakes uh, when we are actually driving on a certain speed. So also when we accelerate, there is a property called as speed. When we accelerate, what happens? The property called speed increases, right? So what happened? The data element, that speed element, doesn't really do anything. But when we actually press on the gas accelerator, actually the speed increases. The reason being, that is a property that will be influenced by the applying the function called as uh, acceleration. Now let's come to let's see what exactly I've written over here. I said I wrote I have a class called wordsdb. It has two different items.
Buddha, sorry to interrupt. Actually, I cannot see your screen.
Oh, sorry, you have not been able to see the screen so far. Sorry. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
now I can see your screen.
Okay. Anyways, I haven't changed the slide from the beginning, so this is a slide that I've been going on about. So I have class words DB. and it has two different sets of elements in it. So there is word list and there is count, and there are scramble, find, unscramble, get word, read words. So can you tell me what is the difference between these two sections? Any of you? Forget about Java programming language. Assume that there is a real world object called wordsDB and it has two different sets of elements in it. So what's the difference, a fundamental difference between these two that you can see?
Get words, read words are functions, and word list count are just data types.
Yes, to answer it even more simplistic English language, the first, just a moment. Hello. Okay. To tell it in even further like simplistic language, the second set is the operations that can be performed, and the first set is the data that it can store, or the or just the properties of this wordsDB class. So this way, every class will contain properties, or they are actually called as fields, and the operations, or they are actually called as methods. Some people also call them as behaviors. Doesn't really matter. So as long as you understand the concept, it's well and good. So how do we typically create a class? The syntax will be like this. Access modifier, even when I was explaining about methods, I have skipped the access modifier, and I'll explain that access modifier shortly. So first thing we have to give for a class is access modifier, and then the keyword class, and then class name. And we can give fields, which are properties. We can write methods, and we can write inner classes. Order is not important for the fields, methods, and inner classes, but if you see, everything is optional. The everything that is in yellow color is actually optional. So the minimum things that you need to create a class is the class keyword and a class name and two braces. That's all you need to create a class. But what all you can put in the class, that that is what is there in the yellow color. So fields, methods, and you can, a class can also have other classes. So typically this is how we can create a class. So what is an object? So for example, so earlier I said two things, right? Either one is, say for example, there is a design of a car. The design explains what are the properties that a car should have, and the actual methods, what should happen. Assume that there is an engineer who is developing a new functionality. Say he can have a button. If that button is pressed, car will fly. Assume that that's the case. So in that case, what happens is assume that that's a new method of that's actually a new method, right? That's actually something that is not there so far. So here, what he has to do, he can copy the everything, every other design from other classes, but then because this new car will have a new functionality, he can simply add his own functionality to his car. So that way he can create other templates, other blueprints that are of more advanced nature. Now, what are actually objects? The objects are the real world things. The objects are the uh, products that are designed according to the class. Okay, objects are the objects are the entities on which you can operate on. Okay, so now if you remember, you have been actually using something called a scanner s equals to new scanner. Okay, in that, that scanner is actually a class, whereas S is actually an object. When you use new scanner equals to system.in, you're actually creating an object, and then you're actually calling some operation of the On the object, yes. You're remember, you're not actually calling on the class. You're not saying scanner dot nextInt. Of course, there are also some things that I'll explain wherein we can directly call on class, but that doesn't really matter at this point of time. So now objects are the ones that actually consume memory. Okay, they are the real world entities that will, because of which uh, real operations will be going on. Okay. So each object can we can create any number of objects from a class. Earlier we have created scanner s equals to new scanner dot in, so of system dot in, right? We can create s2 equals to new scanner of system dot in. Doesn't really influence how that scanner is created. But the operations that are done on S1 are not related to operations that are done on S2 unless they are actually operating on some common shared data. But anyways, for at this point of time, the common data, shared data doesn't really make any difference at all. Okay. So now when we are actually calling this method, that method is actually coded in scanner class. Okay. So why we create a class, so that we can define all the methods or the operations that can be done on a specific entity, and the different data sets, different data elements it can hold. So assume that this scanner s equals to new scanner is a of system.in is a way of creating s objects, right? So what are we doing when we are telling system.in? We are passing it some data while creating the object. So that data will be stored. So when we say s.nextInt, now it knows that it has to read from system.in. So it will be remembering where it has to read the data from, because we have passed in that data when we are creating the object. Assume that there we are creating another scanner object that actually has to read from a file. So we can actually create a file reader and pass it to the scanner. But anyway, so that's not a topic for us to cover now. When we come to IO, then we will cover those things. So what we can actually do is we can create another system, another scanner object that can actually read from file. So from this, what you can actually learn is each scanner object will read from a different input source. So each will be having a different state of its own. What where it has to read from is a state. So each object will contain a different state that can actually be uh, that can that can actually be used when that method is getting called. Okay, so now you have also seen other classes earlier. A string str equals to new string. When you said you haven't actually, you may not have actually created as a new string of whatever the element that you are giving, but actually string you can create like this also. So when you create either this way or string str equals to some xyz in double quotes, even though there also it is happening just like new string only. Yeah, the compiler will convert it to like that. And then when you're executing str dot equals ignore case of Buddha, what you are actually doing is you are operating on the capital BUDDHA. That string you are comparing it with another string with where small BUDDHA. So you are comparing there. So it already has a state. The state is nothing but the actual characters that are stored in that string, which is capital B and UDDHA. So, and when we are calling the make method equals ignore case, we are passing another set of data where both of the data elements will be compared, and either true or false will be returned. So if you have understood the concept of methods, it should be pretty easy for you to actually understand how the data comparison happening, what is coming back and all. Okay, and now so far I have made you create on a something called as default package. Okay, so default package is nothing but package is nothing but just a way to organize different classes. Okay, so assume that you have to create a say for example, uh, you have to create an application where the application may contain thousands of classes. Assume that that's the case. So if everything you have to, all thousand classes you have to put in a single folder, the organization will be a little difficult, right? Assume that you have photos. Okay, photos you have been keeping so long from your childhood, so until now. If you keep every photo in the same folder, what happens? It will become messy. After that, it will be very tough for you to find out a single photo unless you follow some special organizational scheme, right? Like say year, date, etc., etc. So instead of putting every photo in a single folder, assume that you are keeping each photos related to each year in a single folder. That makes things a little easier. And assume that you are moving the month wise a folder into another subfolder. So that will make even easier for you to find out. Okay, my marriage happened in, say for example, 1987 October 10th. You can simply go to your 1987 folder and 1987, and then you can go to the October folder inside that, and you can find the photos very quickly. If everything is there in a single folder, finding that will become little tough, right? So packages actually does a similar thing in Java world. They separate the classes into different folders. Okay, whenever you are actually calling scanner method, you are actually calling that like java.util.scanner. Okay, and then instead of writing java.util.scanner, what you are doing, you are actually saying import java.util.scanner, and then you are simply using scanner, right? So what you are actually doing over there is you are actually creating using the scanner object that is inside java.util package. Okay, so that java.util is nothing but a package in which the scanner class has been defined. And when we don't give any package name for our class, that goes into default package, like a place where there is no package at all. And if you want to create a package, or if you want to give a package, all you have to do is you have to create a folder with the package name, and then you have to use the line package and give that folder name. So, and that should be on the first line in a Java program. Of course, first line in the sense there can be some comments before the comment, sorry, package line, but the actual runnable code has to be the package line. If you don't give anything, that's in default package. Okay. So now let's actually build a game. Okay. So as a part of some examples, let's try to build a game, and therein we try to learn some concepts about what classes are, what objects are, and we will also actually try to understand what we have learned so far by doing some demonstration of those things. So what that game is, you will be given a challenge, okay, like say a scrambled word, and you have to unscramble it. And once you give correct answer, it says okay, you have solved it in XYZ seconds. Okay, so this is the game. Let's build this game, and therein we'll try to learn some of the concepts, and we'll go ahead. Okay, now for the benefit of people who joined late money, to quickly recap, class is like a template where we can define the behaviors of a specific piece of logic that we want to execute, whereas the object is the actual entity. So like assume that you have a car, and car can have a blueprint, but you cannot use that blueprint or design to actually go from one place to another place. Speaking in your electronics term, you can have a circuit board design in your software designed in your software, but you cannot actually make a device work using that circuit board design in your computer. What you have to actually print it onto the PCB, and then you have to connect it to an actual electric signals, and then whatever machine that you created or the circuit you created will operate, right? So that that is a circuit board design inside your computer is nothing but a class. Okay, when it comes to Java programming knowledge language, you can write it, you can design it, but you cannot actually use it. Okay, so when you create a new actual printed circuit board, and then put it in a circuit, then you will actually be able to use that for solving the real world problems. Maybe on clapping, you may want to reduce the temperature in your room. That only happens when you actually print out. So we can create classes by using this syntax. We can give access modifier and then class, and then we can give class name, and then fields method in the classes we can give. and then we can create a new object by using the new keyword and calling a constructor. These are called constructors. When you're actually creating scanner, s equals to new scanner, there scanner is the class and s is the object that you are creating. Okay, and when you call a method on s dot nextInt, that is actually you're calling a method on the object, but that code, actual code for this nextInt, will be written in the scanner class itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the class and object. So now let's go to a small demonstration of trying to solve. Okay, there is another thing, the package. I think you already know about package, right? Package is a place to organize.
Yeah, I know about
So
Java.
package is just a place to organize the classes. So now this is the challenge that we are trying to build, and there are different ways. We can also solve these things without using classes by based on whatever knowledge we have. But for the sake of understanding this, let's try to create one. And okay, so now let me create a new Java project. Let's call it unscramble. So let's call the name of the game as unscramble, and when we click next, and it gives me various options. At this point of time, they don't really matter for us. Just let's just click finish. Now if I create a new class here, what happens is, you see, it gets okay. Here we see a class package line called as unscramble. Why I got by default the unscramble package? That's because when I create a class, it is giving the Eclipse is giving me a default option to create a class in some package. So assume that I have given that deleted that package line and created a class one, and then if I say finish, what happens is now it goes into the default package, and then I created two classes here, right? One is abc.java and then another one is class1.java. Now let's see what actually happened in our file system. So that is there in Eclipse batch 2 folder. Let's go there. And then there is a folder called unscramble, the way I created over here. And then if I go in there, I'll have two folders. One is src and the one is bin. The bin is the place where all the compiled files will go to. See, if you remember, when if we want to execute a programs using Java, we had to use Java C, right? And then a dot class file is getting created. When we are doing it in the same folder, or we can also give a folder where that class has to be created. But if you are doing it with using Eclipse, if that by default they go into the bin folder. Okay, or I'll actually show you some things where you can configure that, but at this point of time that's not of importance. So the classes will go to bin folder. Now if you see, there is a class 1 dot class and abc dot class. Eclipse automatically compiles the class without having you having to worry about it. Now let's go to src folder, where the src folder is having all the classes. Now class 1 dot java is there in src folder, and then abc dot java is there in unscramble folder. So source folder, when you don't give any package for a class, okay, what happens is that goes into the source folder, and if you give a package, that class will go into the that specific folder. Assume that, so if you now see the difference between the class 1, the line 1 of class 1 dot java and line 1 of abc dot java. What we have done over here, we have given the use the keyword package. So keywords are the words that are already defined in the programming language that you can directly use without having to provide your own definitions. Okay, now whereas this abc is your own word, you have to give a definition as to what abc should do. Whereas class java already knows what abc should do. Public, it knows. Package, it knows. Unscramble, it knows that it's a name of the package. And abc, it knows that it's a name of the class. Okay, so now let's create another package inside this unscramble. I'm selecting this, I'm creating a package called unscramble dot pack one. Now if you see what happened over here, I've created another package that is inside unscramble. Actually, let me delete this. Let me add some confusion. If I select package, unscramble, and then create a package, say pack one, that actually created a parallel package to unscramble, right? And then let's delete it. Now if I select unscramble and then create new package, sorry, it's creating a new different default package over here. Now let's do this. Instead of creating a package like that, let's give unscramble dot pack one. Now what happens is it creates another package that is inside this unscramble. Now the reason why it is showing like this is because the structure in which I asked it to show is slightly different. But let me create a class now here first. Created a class. Now it went into DEF. Now the reason why it is showing unscramble and then unscramble pack one like this is because I've selected in such a way that okay, now if you see, it will be more clear for you guys. Now there is there is a package called unscramble. Inside that there is a package called pack1. Inside that there is a class called def. Now if you go there, it is not using a slash, it is using a dot. So whenever there is a child package, you have to differentiate the parent from the child by using a dot. So this is how you can actually create packages, inner packages and all, and inside them you can create packages. So now it doesn't really matter at this point of time. The package is not that important or not that complicated topic for you to spend for us to spend too much time. So let's delete everything.
Buddha, 1 minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you delete it? I mean, what if I want to create a package inside pack one?
Yeah, you can create that.
I mean,
you can say new, and then you can give. You can just create like that. You can create any number of levels of packages.
okay, fine.
Okay, and now just say for example this DEF is currently in this pack one, right? Now if we directly
Yes.
move this to say for example unscramble, Eclipse will be automatically changing the package name. If you see the DEF, that package has been changed to unscramble from unscramble.pack1. Okay, so otherwise if Eclipse is not doing that for you, you will have to do that manually, or if you are not using Eclipse, you have to make sure that you do it correctly. Okay. Now let's create a package called let's call it a main package, and let's create a class called as main class. So far every class that you are developing, I'm sorry, we should not do dot class. Every class you are developing runs on its own, right? Now, the application what we are developing here, that unscramble, is not something that you can run using a single class, or you can write it like that. But the reason of creating all the classes and all is actually to ensure that we create different structures or different classes so that the code can be easily organized. A single class code need not be thousands of lines. Instead, if we move that code's responsibility, like for example, doing some operation is moved to some class, some operation is moved to some other class. There you'll actually be making multiple things very easy. One thing that you're going to make easy is multiple people can work on those things at a time. So without having to worry about disturbing each other's work. One person can develop one class, another person can develop another class. Both can be integrated together to achieve a common purpose. Okay. And another thing that you are going to achieve is the clearness. A logic in the code will be clean. Like say for example, it will be easy to understand also. So as we go on about creating different classes and all, things will be even more clear. But for now, let's just create a main class that should actually act as a entry point. But as I said, we if we cannot have more than one class, with we can have, but there is no point. We can have more. Let's say, let's call this main as entry point. So for the entry point class, there has to be the main method: public static void main string. Now I created a main method. So now let's call it main class. So our entire application will begin execution from here. So we'll create some other classes that will actually help as helper classes and will run. Let's see what is there. A project was not built due to resource already exists on the disk. Fix the problem. Try refreshing. Now, what did I say the game should do? The game should give the user a scrambled word, and then it should wait for the user to uh, give the correct input. Then it has to tell how much time the user has taken to solve the problem, right? So to solve the problem, so there are multiple things that we have to solve here. First thing is we should give a challenge. Okay, let's assume challenge equals to, say for example, EMAG, and then string answer is game. So now what we will do is we will tell user to solve this and wait for user to enter the input. So for that we will use scanner. Now if you see what happened, you haven't even you may not even have observed when Eclipse what it has done. It has entered this new line called import java.util.scanner. Okay, that line is actually something that Eclipse has added when we have entered the scanner. Now let's remove this line. Now see scanner. Now what have when we press Control space, it is showing a list, right? And then when we select from here, it will be automatically coming. Assume that we have not selected from there, we are just typing. And now what happens? Eclipse will not be able to get it by default. Now for that to done, for Eclipse to do that, what we can do is we can just move the mouse onto this, and then if it will have some quick fixes available, and the first one is import. So now when we do this, this line will be added and the error will be gone. So instead of giving like this, we could also have given java.util.scanner, and now Java can find that without using the the import line. But anyways, this the code is looking idiotic, right? So we can actually reduce the code by actually using the import statement. Okay, now the code has been introduced. Now what we have to do is we have to wait for the user to enter a specific an answer, and then whatever answer he has entered, let's read it in response. Now what do we do? If response dot equals ignore case answer, now see this class. Now when we run this particular class, okay, it is also telling we are not closed this, so let's close the scanner. So now when we run the program as Java application, it says solve this, and then when we type game and press enter, it says hooray, solved it. But then my game has another thing, right? It has to find out how much time I took to solve this challenge. Okay. So for that to be done, what we can actually do is we can use something called as instant. Instant is a class that actually provides functionality to actually measure some time. Now what I'm doing over here is before after I've entered, I've asked the user to solve the challenge. I'm actually asking the user to I'm actually creating a variable called start, wherein I'm putting this instance time, like whenever this line gets executed, that time will be stored in the start. And then when the user has entered the response, I'm storing that time at that period at that point of time in something called as end. Now to find out what is the difference between the start and end, we use something called as duration. Duration dot between, we can give start end, and this actually finds out the time that happened between duration the start and end. So now we can do something like do 2 millis. So what happens, we will be getting the number of milliseconds that a user has taken to solve the problem, and now to convert it into seconds we have to divide it by 1000. Now, why are we converting it with 1.0? Because 2 millis will actually return me a long, and this 1000 is also long. So when we divide a long with long, the result will also become a long. So if we divide 3 by 2, we won't be getting answer as 1.5. Instead, we'll be getting answer as 1. That is a default way of how Java operates. And then to actually get double value as the response, we have to convert one of them to double, and then both will be converted automatically. So here what we are doing, when by multiplying double with an integer or long, this particular value will become a double. And then when we divide it with a long, because double and long in both of them, double has more memory, so this 1000 will also convert will get converted to double, and the whole result will be double. Otherwise, we won't be getting a proper value. Now, what I saw say is in now I'm printing this. Now let's simply run the program. Hooray, I solved it in 2.154 seconds. So I completely took around 2.154 seconds to solve the problem of the finding out how much time a user has taken. But isn't this boring? Every time I run this program, the same word will be returned. So then what we can actually what happens is if we keep on running the same program again and again, we cannot get it right. So what we can do is we can create two arrays where one array we will contain challenges that are scrambled form of words, and then another word that is a unscrambled form of a word. So this way we can actually make sure that we can give a different set of inputs to sorry challenges to user. But putting all that logic here makes this main code a bit lengthy. So what we will do is we'll create another class wherein we'll actually get that particular job done. Okay, so let's do that. Let's create a class. Let's create a package called database, or say data. Here we are going to keep, I'm sorry, not class, package. Here we will keep all the classes that are related to a package. And so now let's create a class called wordsdb. Finish. Here what we will do is we will have to create the actual arrays. Okay, so for now first let us only move the code of this challenge and answer to here. Now let's call this first. What we did is we have moved the challenge and answer to here. So now what we can actually do is we can actually create. We have to we can actually use that words db. Let's create words db object. So what I created over here is a method of a is a class. Okay, now to actually use this words db, what I'll do is I'll have to create a new object, right? So and then what have to do, I have to import that. Import data.wordsdb. Now I'm going to do words equals to new words. Now what this does is it creates a new object of wordsdb. Now to actually use the properties that are inside this, all we have to do is we call it using the object the words dot challenge, and then here words dot answer. Now what actually is happening is I have moved that particular property to here. Okay, I have moved that particular um, uh, I have moved the actual logic of storing the words to here. Now assume, but the problem is still there, right? Even now the we'll be only getting game. Now let's solve the problem of having multiple words. Okay, I have actually created what we can actually do is we can actually create an arrays challenges and equals to, we can create like this. Now let's say uh, IAONP OMC TUPRE. So assume that I have three words in challenges and I have three words in answers. This is game, this is piano, and this is computer. Now what I can do is, instead of using a single word, what I can do is I can actually create a random number. Now the random is in package java.util.random, and then the instant is in package java.time.instant, and the duration is also in java.time.duration. Now do you see how Java has organized? The Java has kept all the relative things in a single package. Like there is some things where we wanted to calculate times, durations, difference between times, etc. They all been kept in Java.time package. Whereas other utilities that we can use in programs very frequently, it kept in Java.util package. Okay, and even the string is also in some package that is in actually Java.lang package. When we say system.out.println, that is also in Java.lang package. You have to import all the packages wherever you are using a specific class are there in, except for the java.lang package. Java.lang package is by default, so it will be automatically inserted by our compiler when we are compiling the program. Okay, now what we will do is we will generate a random number from, say for example, uh, at the maximum 3. So when we give 3, what happens? It will either return 0 or 1 or 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to store it in R. Now when instead of using challenge, I would be saying challenges of R, answers of R. Now what happens? Every time a new random number will be generated, and that random number will be coming over here, and then I'll be comparing with that same answer. Okay. Now when I say run, I'll be getting game and say game entered. Okay, now I solved it 4.1424 seconds. Now when I run the program again, I got a different word. Okay, so now if I say computer, it says I solved it. Now if I run the program again, it gave me some other word again, piano. And if I run it again, I'll be getting again in similar kinds of random order. Okay, now see, if you say earlier we got game first and then computer and then piano. Now I got game and then piano, and then I may or may not get computer again. So because this is random, see, I got piano again. So this is completely random. You cannot judge in the order in which they actually come. Okay, so now what we did, we have actually moved the data part only, but in fact we can actually simplify it even further. Now if you see, I'm actually creating a new words DB, a new words class, and what I'm actually doing is I'm actually creating a public variables. Okay, but assume that your program is very big, and identify using indexes, it's not so prudent. Because in some point of time I may accidentally change r equals to some, say for example, 1. What happens is this random r may actually generate 2 here, but when this line comes, it becomes r equals to 1. So what we'll be doing is we'll be comparing the second word with the first word, right? So it is not that good. It's not a good thing to actually depend on indexes. We have to do some, we have to have a better logic to actually uh, to do that. Okay, so for us to be able to do that, what we will do is we will write a program called check public boolean check, and this should take two strings. One is challenge, another one is response. Now what we shall do is we shall actually get a string challenge, and this should contain the challenge that we have already we have given to the user, and the response is the response that the user, whatever the response user has given back. Okay, now what we can actually do is we can actually verify whether this challenge exists in this challenges array or not, and then find the index of it. How can we do that? We can do that by using simple linear search, right? So what we can do for int I equals to 0, I less than, say for example, challenges dot length I plus plus, if challenges of I dot equals ignore case of challenge. Then what we are going to do, we are going to set int let's initially put the index to -1, and then when we actually find that challenge in that challenges array, we will be putting index to I and then break out of the loop. If in case if the given challenge is not there in the array, what we will do is we will simply return false, which means the challenge is not found. So answer also we cannot verify, so we are simply returning -1 false, wherein, say for example, what is the functionality of this check method? Check method, we actually want to verify if the challenge and response are same, like if that response is correct answer, then we can we will be returning true. If the response is not a correct answer, we will be returning false. Okay, now assume that index has been found. If index is less than 0, challenge is not found, so no point in verifying for the response in the answers array. So now in other case, what actually happens, assuming if you have done some methods thing, whenever it encounters return, it will be returning back to the original method, because it only happens if the index is less than 0, and index will only be less than 0 only in the case when we could not meet this criteria, like challenge, no word in the challenges is equals to the given challenge. Now another case, what we will do, we already have index. Now what we will do is, if answers of index e dot equals ignore case, the response whatever user has given, if it is equal, we are going to return true. If it is not, we are going to return false. So what this check method does is, check method simply verifies if the given challenge and response are matching. If they are matching, the true will be returned, and if they are not matching, the false will be returned. Now instead of relying on storing a specific challenge and then an index of it, and then we're comparing them both in this main method, let's move the responsibility of comparing the two words for this words db itself. Okay. Words db class itself. So to do that, what we are going to do is this: instead of storing the index, we'll be storing the challenge equals to challenges of random int next 3. But then again, okay, we'll come to that a bit later. Challenge, and instead of trying to verify if they are equal here or not here, what we will do here is words dot check, and we are going to challenge, and response we are going to pass to that check method. So now what happens is, a random answer will challenge will be given, and it will be compared by inside this check method. Now if we run the program, everything else stays the same except that the comparison is happening in a different location. Now sorry, wrong answer. So, and if I had entered game, it says I solved it. Okay. So now what happens? The responsibility of main has even reduced. It doesn't even have to verify if those two are same or not. Okay. It will be the responsibility of the check method that is written inside the words db class. Okay. We are accessing the check method by using this words object. Okay. Now See, there is still a problem, right? The problem is this: what if we have accidentally set the words dot challenges to a new string? Assume that we have done this accidentally, or someone who hasn't completely understood how a code should look like. Assume that we did this. Array constants cannot be used in initializers. So what we have to do is we can create a new array. Sorry. Now assume that I have done like this. So now what happens is the challenges and the answers will become in non-sync, right? Because the challenges one is actually BSC, whereas the words DB will be assuming that is still ABC. So what happens over here is it is actually not safe to let the users directly access these private variables, okay, and we should not make them changeable by the user. So in that case what we will actually be doing is we can actually make this class challenges actually a private, and then this also private, and now what we will do is we will move the responsibility of identifying a random word to this. Okay, even before I do that, let me show you another thing. Let's keep it public. And here assume that, okay, now assume that I don't have this code. Tomorrow assume that I have added another word in this database. Okay, say for example say RHAD. Now assume so let's see, I have actually given a new word. So but still what happens over here, because I have given 3 only here, my code will still be giving me same only the first 3 words only. It will be using only the first 3 words. Imagine that I don't want to do it this way. I don't want to limit based on this. So now what I can do is I can actually do words dot challenges dot length. So this will be returning me the length of this array or the challenges array. Now so we can do it this way so that we will know what actually a specific how many words a specific words database contain, how many challenges a database contain. But don't you see, there are two risks over here. One is we are trying to access some word at random, and then we are trying to use that word. Okay, this is well and good, but this still has the same problem of if we accidentally set this words dot challenges to some new array, what happens is they go both will become out of sync. So the by directly putting variables as public like this is actually little risky. Other users may change it in so that your actual um, purpose of writing creating those variables will be gone. So in those cases what we will do is let's move the responsibility of getting a random word to the words DB itself. So for that what we will do, let's create a method called public string get a word. So what this has to do is this has to actually generate a random number and then return that as a challenge. Now random, new random. Now instead of creating any of this, we can simply return. Now what happens over here, this identifies a random word and then that can be returned over here. So now what we will do is string challenge equals to words dot get word. Now if you see the identifying using a random word and all that responsibility has gone to this words DB. Okay, so we don't really have to uh, generate. I did think about how to generate a random word and all. That's all responsibility of the words DB. Tomorrow, words DB has identified a different logic to actually do something. It will do it that way. Okay, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now because there is no point because we are actually you getting a word using this get word method, we don't actually have to make these things public. Now I'll explain you what this public and private are. Okay, if you remember, for the fields the syntax will be access modifier, data type, and then this, and also there is access modifier here also. So what is the access modifier? Access modifier is something that will prevent others from accessing yours, or they'll control the access. So now because what I did, because I made them public, what I can do, words dot challenges answers. Okay, I can directly access this. Now if I accidentally put this as null somehow, now what happens is when I try to run the program, I'll be getting a null pointer exception. Forget about what null pointer exception is. I'll explain those things later. But what you have to get is my actual behavior has gone. Okay, the now the program has code because someone has accidentally done this. Now it's actually throwing me error. Okay, it's not giving me the result I want. So now what has to have to do is I should not let them access these answers and challenges directly. In fact, I don't have to, right? Because the words is taking the responsibility of giving a random word, and the check is taking the responsibility of comparing the two words. What actually is happening is the letting others access these challenges and answers directly is becoming a little redundant. So now what we can do is we can make them private. Right. Now what happens is this. Everything else works the same way, except that when I say words dot, I won't be having answers. I won't be having challenges. Now do you see what has happened? The challenges and the answers have become private to the this words DB class. That is the reason why I am able to access answers here, or challenges here, or even challenges here. So now what I've actually done is I've made these two variables, two fields as private variables for the words DB class. So this is how we can actually create a class and then fields and then methods so that others can actually access these things. Okay. Now uh, imagine that say for example I wanted to for now what I'll do is okay. Uh, let's say let's introduce. So now I'm not using this import java.random here anymore. I'm simply deleting it. Okay, now what I have a words DB class that can give me a random word, and then that can verify whether the response whatever I've given is correct or not. This way I can actually create a very simple thing. Okay, now let's say I want to okay, I actually have some more things that I can explain, but we only have 8 minutes left. So what I want you to do is as an exercise for today's session, and please try to solve the other exercise that we have already solved. Okay, otherwise things will get even more and more complex. There is that is also one of the reason I'm going a little slow. Unless you solve those examples, if we go fast, things we will be losing track of what's going on. Okay. So I hope you understood the concept today, right? So have you got any questions as to how we create classes and all?
No, but
Okay. Okay. So now what I want you to do is see I am actually trying to find out how many seconds a particular user has taken by using this logic and all, right? I don't want to keep this in this class. What I want you to do is I want you to create a new class called as stopwatch that should have methods start and stop, and then the stop method should return how many seconds a specific user has taken since the start method has been called. So that is the exercise that I want you to solve. Okay, so the logic of calculating time has to be moved to a different class is what I'm asking you to do. Okay, so this is the exercise, and everything else should stay the same. I want you to write this game, whatever we have written over here, and try to see if you can get the same behavior as to what we have done so far, and move this logic of calculating time to a different class. Okay, so try to watch the video and try to repeat the code whatever I have done, execute it. If you are getting the same response, then move the logic of the instant dot finding out number of seconds to a different thing. Okay, so that's the exercise for you guys. I'll be sharing the PDF whatever once I have uploaded it. Okay, so that you can actually try to solve the problem. Okay, so any questions, guys?
Yeah, but the one thing in the main class
Yeah.
after strings, you used commas or dots, that one.
Yeah, these are all triple dots. Either we can use like this or we can use like this. Both are same.
Oh, okay, both are same.
Yeah.
And also one more thing, you got an error that scanner dot close is not used. I mean, why we are using this scanner dot close?
Okay. That's actually not an error. That's actually a warning. The reason why Eclipse is showing a warning is, see, when we have opened scanner system dot in, what has actually happening is we are actually using up some memory, okay, to store this information, and we are also observing the keyboard input whenever the user has entered. So now when the program is executed, there are chances that this scanner may not be after the program is done, the program will not actually use the scanner, right? Once the program is completed, but the memory whatever that has been used by the scanner will still stay the same. Assume that the program doesn't end here, and so the program goes from one class to another class, another class, another class, and then class, but it will not actually read the I'm sorry, it will not actually read the uh, read from the input again anymore. In that case, there is no point of keeping that connection open, right? We are trying to read from system.in, and we are not reading. We hoping that we may read from system.in, but we are not going to do that. So what happens is some memory will be consumed. Assume that you are creating new scanner objects in a loop. Okay, so what happens is you will be creating those objects, and you will be keeping aside some memory. So what happens is, now if you remember when I said integer takes 2 bytes, long takes 8 bytes, etc. Scanner object also takes some memory. If we keep on creating this, and the connection itself will consume some memory, and also a lock will be created on this keyboard in keyboard input when we have used this word. So what happens is some resource will be used by that lock also. So the point is, when we are creating these objects and creating a lock on certain things, that consumes some memory. Okay, and if we don't release that memory, after some time, there are high chances that the amount of memory that is used by our program will keep on increasing as we create objects and all. So for most of the things, when we are creating any of these kinds of locks or observers, etc., unless we close them, what happens is, if the program that we are using is running for a long time, there are high chances that our RAM requirements will go high, because we are opening some things but we are not closing them. Okay, so to clear any memory that we are using by creating a new object of scanner, we are actually closing that. Okay, so that lock whatever we created will be closed, and that memory will be released for other operations to happen. Okay. So if we don't use scanner.close here, it's not a big deal. Okay, after the program has ended, Java will obviously close all things that are opened uh, by our program. Okay, but the problem will be uh, for not for the programs, small programs like this, but for long running programs that may never be closed, and your RAM requirements will go high. That's why your some programs will be running slow, even though they don't do that much operation. They are not optimized properly. They are not closing the resources properly. Okay, so we have closed it just to ensure that we clear any resources that are being used and clear any memory that is being consumed by that particular locks. Okay.
Okay, okay, got you, Buddha. What if, I mean, I'm like you said, I called one more class,
Mm-hmm.
and there the same scanner I'm using. I mean, scanner word. Can I use in that way, or it's not possible?
Yes, you can use the same variable in other classes also. Like you have said like this, right? Scanner scanner equal to new
Yes,
scanner. You wanted
yes.
like
So
this, right? Yes, you can
yeah,
create.
in this case, the already allocated memory in the main class will be used. Like
No,
here,
no,
if
no. Whatever
oh, it's a
variable that is created inside a method is only until that method. In fact, I should have told you a concept called as scope. Okay, scope is, say for example, uh, uh, till when this variable can be accessed, like where all this variable can be accessed. This variable can be accessed within the block of statement. Okay, when I said block of statement, that means I can use it inside these two these two braces. I cannot use these words outside this here. Okay, and assume that I have a block of statement here. Okay, I don't have to have if or anything to create a block. Int I equals to 0, sys out I. Now I can actually run this program and this program gets successfully executed. Now if you say I'm printing I, now if I go here and then try to print I, it actually doesn't even let me compile the program. It throws a compilation error. So now what you have to understand is any variable that is created inside a block, that is a parenthesis, that is only accessible inside that block. Assume that there is another block here. Now I want to use it here, I can use it here. That is because I created a variable between two parentheses. Anything that is inside those two parentheses can be accessing that variable. Okay, but anything outside that braces, no, they cannot be accessed.
okay,
Okay.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any other questions? Mani, have you understood the concept?
Yeah, I understood.
Okay. Mani, till what how many exercises did you do from the beginning?
3. I have written only 3 codes.
Okay, like what is the last program that you wrote?
Uh, Printing, I mean, to find whether given number is prime or not using do while.
Okay, so you're able to successfully do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So try to do other challenges also. Okay, there are a lot of challenge exercises that you have to solve. So otherwise, we would discuss, right? For you, it may take 2 months, but if you don't do, it will go beyond that. So just try to spend some time on solving the exercise and all. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I'll share the PDF with you so that you can actually access the exercise, or if you want some reference, you can access. In fact, I have some more things to cover in the same classes concept, but I'll cover that once I see that you understood the basic concept of solving the exercise. Okay, so that's it from for today, guys. See you tomorrow.
okay. Bye, Buddha.
Bye.